Before the story begins, to everyone watching this, tell me where you're tuning in from in the comments below. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and share if you enjoy stories that reveal the truth about human nature, kindness, and redemption. Now, let's begin. It was one of those nights in Atlanta when the city's rain fell like judgment, cold, relentless, and heavy. In a dim hospital corridor, Nurse Alana Brooks tightened her ponytail, glanced at the chart in her hand, and took a deep breath. Her next patient was a VIP, transferred under tight security and whispered gossip. Rumor said he was worth billions. Rumor also said he hated people like her. Alana didn't care. She was there to do her job. Even if her patient was Robert K. Langford, the steel magnate, real estate tycoon, and infamous figure whose name was practically synonymous with arrogance and discrimination, the hospital had been buzzing ever since the ambulance brought him in. The old man had collapsed during a private dinner, a heart attack mid-toast, and his bodyguards had driven straight through 3 red lights to get him there alive. When Alana pushed open the door to his private suite, she saw him, a pale, aging man with an oxygen mask and tubes in his arm, surrounded by silence and the low hum of medical machines. His skin looked like thin paper over anger that never quite faded. She checked his vitals, adjusted his IV, and began to speak softly, even though she knew he couldn't hear her yet. "You're lucky they brought you in time," she said quietly. "Your heart was ready to give up on you." She paused. "But maybe this is your second chance, Mr. Langford. Don't waste it." For days, Alana worked double shifts, caring for him when others refused. Many of the staff didn't want to deal with him. Some remembered the news articles, the interviews, where Langford had made vile comments about keeping things traditional. Others just didn't want to be near the man who once funded politicians who tried to shut down their communities. But Alana believed in something deeper than vengeance. "If I start choosing who deserves care," she told her co-worker Mariah one night, "then I've lost the whole point of why I became a nurse." Still, she couldn't deny it was strange, nursing a man whose world had been built on keeping people like her out. But as the nights turned into weeks, something began to shift. The billionaire's health improved slowly, but his silence lingered. Then one evening, as Alana was changing his IV bag, she heard a low, gravelly whisper. "Who are you?" Alana turned, startled. His blue eyes were open, tired but sharp. "I'm your nurse," she said calmly. "Alana Brooks. You've been unconscious for almost 2 weeks." He frowned, his gaze flickering over her brown skin, her curly hair tucked beneath her cap. "They sent you," he muttered, his voice dripping with disdain. She met his stare without flinching. "The hospital did," she replied. "And if you're asking whether you're in good hands, yes, you are." He scoffed, but his body was too weak to argue. She could tell the man was used to control, used to barking orders that made people scramble. But here, hooked up to machines, he was no longer the king of anything. The days that followed were filled with quiet battles. He complained about her presence, about her touch, about her tone. Alana stayed professional. She took his insults with the patience of someone who'd heard worse and still showed up to work the next day. But one morning something changed. Langford had slipped into cardiac distress. The alarm blared. Alana ran in before anyone else, performing compressions, shouting for epinephrine, her hands moving in rhythm with her training and her faith. "Come on, old man," she muttered under her breath. "You don't get to die angry." After several tense minutes, the monitor beeped steadily again. Langford lived. When he came to later, the first thing he saw was her face, sweat on her brow, relief in her eyes. He blinked slowly, his voice hoarse. "You saved me?" "Yes," she said, checking his pulse. "That's what I do." He looked at her for a long moment, something unreadable flickering in his expression. "You should have let me go," he said quietly. "Would have made a lot of people happy." "Maybe," she said, straightening his blanket. "But not me." That night, for the first time, Langford didn't complain. He just stared out the window as rain streaked the glass, lost in thought. Something inside him had cracked open, something he didn't yet understand. Days passed, and Alana noticed subtle changes. He started asking questions, not about his company or his money, but about her. "Why'd you become a nurse?" he asked one morning. She shrugged. "Because my mom died in a hospital when I was 15, she said. "She didn't get the care she deserved." I wanted to be the kind of person who wouldn't let that happen to someone else. Langford's lips tightened. Hospitals are businesses, he muttered. Not miracles. They can be both, Alana replied. Depends on who's running them. One afternoon when Langford's son Gregory came to visit, Alana saw the dynamic immediately. The younger man was polished, arrogant, and impatient. He didn't look at his father with affection, only calculation. Dad, we need to talk about the board, Gregory said. You can't keep delaying the merger. Langford's jaw clenched. We'll talk when I'm better. You're not getting any younger, his son snapped, then glanced at Alana with a dismissive smirk. And I see you've got interesting help here. Alana ignored it, but Langford didn't. His voice, though weak, carried weight. You'll show her respect in my room, he said coldly. Gregory blinked, taken aback. Since when do you— Since now, Langford said. Get out. When the son left, Alana looked at him surprised. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, he murmured. I raised a vulture. The following nights, Alana found herself staying longer than her shift required. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the look in the old man's eyes. Regret, fear, something fragile. Maybe it was because she'd seen so many men like him crumble without anyone ever telling them the truth. But the more she stayed, the more she realized something deeper was happening. Langford wasn't just a patient. He was a man trying too late to understand the damage he'd done. He began asking for her opinions, listening when she spoke. And one night he told her something that made her hands freeze mid-chart. Alana, he said softly, I think someone's trying to kill me. Her heart skipped. What do you mean? His eyes darted to the door. It wasn't just a heart attack. Someone tampered with my medication before that dinner. I know it. She stared at him, the air in the room tightening. Who would do that? He hesitated. My son. Alana didn't know what to say. The same man who'd sneered at her earlier might have been plotting his father's death. You can't be sure, she whispered. I built an empire, Langford said. I know when I'm being hunted. As she left the room that night, her mind raced. Maybe he was paranoid. Maybe it was the medication talking. But deep down, Alana felt something she hadn't expected. Fear. Because what if he was right? The next morning, Alana arrived at the hospital earlier than usual, her mind still racing from Langford's words. Someone was trying to kill him. The thought was almost impossible to believe, but she couldn't ignore it. She reviewed his charts, checked every IV line, every medication label, and noticed subtle discrepancies, tiny changes that no one else had caught. She took a deep breath and confronted the night nurse. Did anyone enter Mr. Langford's room after midnight? The nurse hesitated. Well, Gregory's personal assistant came by briefly, but I didn't see anything unusual. Alana's pulse quickened. Can you get me the security footage? Minutes later, she and the hospital administrator watched the tapes together. And there it was. Gregory's assistant entering the room after Langford's medication had been prepared. The assistant's hands lingered a moment too long over the IV bag before leaving quietly. Alana's stomach churned. This wasn't paranoia. Someone had tried. She went straight to Langford. Sir, she said, her voice firm but controlled, someone tried to harm you. I have proof. His eyes narrowed, a flicker of fear cutting through his usual bravado. I knew it, he whispered. I've been careful, but I didn't think it would happen here in my own bed. Alana shook her head. We need to act fast. You can't stay here without protection. You need security you can trust, not someone who reports directly to your son. Langford studied her, the weight of his life decisions settling in. You know, Alana, all these years I thought I had control. I thought my money could keep everyone in line, but it can't keep people honest. It can't stop them from wanting what I have, or from hating me for what I believe. She looked at him carefully. You have a chance to change that. Start by trusting the right people. Over the next few days, Alana stayed by his side constantly, watching his medications, talking to his staff, and quietly coordinating with hospital security. Every time someone suspicious entered, she noticed it. Every time Langford flinched or tensed, she noticed it. Slowly, the billionaire began to see her not just as a nurse, but as an ally, someone who didn't flinch at his reputation, didn't bow to his power, and cared enough to protect him without asking for anything in return. One evening, Langford sat up in his bed, the rain drumming softly on the windows. Alana, he said, voice low, I need to tell you something about my past. Something I've never told anyone. She leaned closer, her pen poised, but she didn't take notes. She simply listened. I've made mistakes, he said. Hurt people I shouldn't have. Discriminated against people I never understood. Ignored warnings and even treated people cruelly for sport. I thought it kept me alive. I was wrong. Alana's heart ached at the confession. It's not too late, she said softly. You can still make it right. He chuckled, a bitter edge in the sound. Make it right? I don't even know where to start. You start with honesty, she said, and by protecting the people who care about you, instead of the ones who only want what you have. That night when she left his room, Alana couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was coming. Gregory wasn't just greedy, he was dangerous. And Langford's past decisions had created a web of enemies she couldn't see yet. The following day, Langford's attorney arrived. Sir, he said nervously, there's an issue with your estate documents. Gregory has been moving assets without your authorization. Some of it is missing and some of it, well, it looks like sabotage. Langford's hands clenched. I knew it, he muttered. I've been a fool to trust him. Alana stood silently, waiting for the right moment to speak. Sir, you can fix this, but you have to act fast. Gregory is playing a dangerous game, and if he succeeds, it won't just be your fortune at risk. It could be your life. Langford's eyes met hers, the faint glimmer of trust there. And you'll help me? Yes, she said simply. I'll do whatever it takes. That night, while most of the hospital slept, Alana sat outside his room reviewing documents and video evidence. Langford's breathing was steady, but she couldn't ignore the feeling that someone was watching. Outside the suite, she caught a shadow flit across the corridor. Heart hammering, she moved quietly, her instincts sharp. Someone had tampered with the security cameras. She went straight to Langford's bedside. Sir, she whispered, we need to leave now. I think someone's planning another attempt and it won't be subtle this time. He looked at her, fear and clarity mixing in his eyes. You really think my own son? Alana nodded. I do. But we'll stop him. By midnight, they were in a secure vehicle, racing across the city to a private safe house. Langford sat in the back, wrapped in a blanket, watching Alana as she double-checked the locks, monitored the cameras, and coordinated with trusted security contacts. For the first time in decades, he was vulnerable and fully dependent on someone he had once dismissed. As the rain fell harder, Alana realized the night would be long. But she also realized something else. The man in the back of that vehicle, the billionaire who had once spat on people like her, was now someone who could change. And she had the power to guide him. Langford's voice broke the silence. Alana, I never thought I'd say this, but thank you. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she checked the locks one more time, then looked at him. Don't thank me yet. We're not safe until we finish this, until the people who want to harm you are stopped, and until you start facing the truth about your life. He nodded slowly, understanding the weight of her words. For the first time, he wasn't in control, and for the first time, he didn't want to be. Outside, the storm raged on as if echoing the tension inside. But in that secure room, a strange calm settled over them. Alana knew the fight was far from over. Gregory's greed, Langford's past, and the dangerous web of enemies meant that the coming days would test them both. And perhaps, in the process, teach a billionaire the true meaning of humility, trust and redemption. The storm outside had finally begun to taper, leaving streets glistening under the faint glow of city lights. Inside the safe house, Alana and Langford sat together, reviewing all the evidence she had collected, security footage, altered documents, and logs of suspicious activity. One thing was clear. Gregory wasn't just greedy. He had tried to orchestrate his father's death to gain control over the empire. Langford's hands trembled as he flipped through the papers. I can't believe my own son, he muttered. I raised him to take over my company, and this is what I get. Alana placed a steady hand on his shoulder. You didn't raise him to be cruel, sir. Sometimes people's choices show who they really are, not what we taught them. But now we have a chance to stop him, legally and safely. The following morning, Langford's lawyers, backed by Alana's observations and evidence, moved quickly. A court injunction froze Gregory's access to the company accounts. Security footage was submitted, showing him entering the hospital room and tampering with the IV. The media caught wind of the scandal almost immediately. spreading the story nationwide. The arrogant heir who tried to kill his own father, Langford, still frail but determined, summoned the courage to confront his son. Gregory stormed into his father's penthouse, expecting confrontation over the frozen assets, only to find Langford standing calmly, Alana beside him. "Dad, what is this?" Gregory barked, anger flashing. "Who is she?" Langford's eyes were cold but steady. "Alana Brooks, your nurse and the woman who saved my life when you tried to end it. She's the one who kept me alive long enough to see your betrayal for what it is." Gregory's face paled. "You're lying!" "I'm not," Langford said. "Every action you took, every step you plotted. We have proof. The authorities have been notified, and your future in this company is over. You betrayed your own family, and the law will decide the rest." Alana remained quiet but vigilant. She had anticipated Gregory's anger, his attempts to intimidate them. But seeing him cornered by truth, she felt a quiet satisfaction. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about exposing lies and protecting life. Gregory, realizing he had no leverage, stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The echo lingered in the penthouse, a reminder of his arrogance and his downfall. Langford sank into his chair, exhausted. "I don't know what I would have done without you, Alana. I think I've been blind my entire life." Alana looked at him with a calm, unwavering gaze. "You've had a chance to change." "You still do, but it has to start from now, not the past." Weeks passed and Langford's recovery continued. But more importantly, his perspective on life shifted. He met with employees he had once dismissed, apologized publicly for past statements, and started initiatives to support underrepresented communities in his companies. Alana stayed by his side, not just as a nurse, but as a mentor and confidant, guiding him toward understanding the responsibility of wealth and influence. One afternoon, Langford called her into his office. "Alana," he said, gesturing toward a large contract on his desk, "I want you to lead a new foundation in my name, one that ensures people like you and your community have access to healthcare and opportunities I failed to provide before." Alana's eyes widened. "Sir, you saved my life," he interrupted. "Now I want you to save others. Not with medicine alone, but with leadership, resources, and voice. You deserve this." Tears welled in Alana's eyes. She nodded, overwhelmed but determined. "I will, sir. I promise I'll make this count." Months later, the foundation launched. The story of how a black nurse saved a racist old billionaire, exposing his son's treachery and inspiring national change, became a viral sensation. Interviews, documentaries, and news features highlighted Alana's courage and Langford's transformation. Gregory remained out of the spotlight, facing legal consequences, while Langford embraced a new chapter, working tirelessly to make amends for decades of mistakes. And Alana, once just a nurse doing her duty, became a national symbol of integrity, bravery, and the power of one person to inspire change. One evening, as Langford looked out over the city from his penthouse balcony, he whispered quietly, almost to himself, "I almost died, and I almost wasted my life hating. She saved me in more ways than one." Alana joined him, the city lights reflecting in their eyes. "The world doesn't change in a day," she said softly. "But one life at a time, one choice at a time, it can." Langford smiled faintly, a mixture of humility and gratitude. "I'll never forget that." "Thank you, Alana, for everything." And in that moment, as the wind rustled across the skyline, both understood the truth. Courage, compassion, and honesty could not only save a life, it could transform one. The billionaire, once cruel and blind to the world around him, had been given a second chance, and this time he would not waste it.